that, nothing that any one of us does is ever going to be, we're going to please everyone all the time. I hope that the biggest thing that we learn is how to be responsive instead of reactive, in certain situations. I think it's really easy. And, especially, for young people or for those who aren't in it every day to react to everything that happens. It's also dangerous, to react to everything that happens. But, I think just from a humanistic perspective and life lesson perspective, I think.
Watch Stephanie White's body language carefully. The crossed arms and defensive posture don't look like a coach taking responsibility. Instead, it feels like deflection. And this isn't an isolated incident. White has faced criticism over several physical plays involving her players, including incidents involving Alyssa Thomas, Dejonai Carrington, and Caitlin Clark. Each time, the response has been similar. The opposing player was simply playing hard. That's why fans are now questioning whether this has become a leadership issue and whether Indiana's players truly feel supported by their coach.
Stephanie White has made comments on the fact that she did not back her own players after the Dejonai Carrington clothesline from hell incident the other day, in which she came out and said, "Oh, Dejonai's she's not a dirty player. She just plays real hard. Blah, 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 blah." I mean, look, she turns into the Charlie Brown teacher pretty quickly with a lot of people. At least with me, she does. The moment I realize she's going to do it again and not back her own player, yeah, I'm out. I got to tell you, one of the most obvious traits of a terrible leader, not taking any responsibility for your actions.
The latest controversy came after a physical play involving Dejonai Carrington that resulted in a flagrant foul. The contact around the Fever player's head and neck area immediately sparked criticism. What made it worse for fans was White's response. Instead of strongly emphasizing player safety, she defended Carrington's aggressive style. A coach doesn't need to create a public feud, but players need to know their coach has their back when physicality crosses the line. For many Fever fans, this incident is another reason to question White's leadership.
There are a lot of folks out there who want to divide us. That there are a lot of folks out there who want to create more challenges for us. And in our locker room, we do a really good job of keeping that outside the locker room, and pulling for one another. I mean, you guys see it. The vibes are always pretty good in here. I'm proud of them for that. And I think, outside of even just the sport and outside of the job, it serves great life lessons for us as well. Yeah, I mean, look.
Now listen to White's comments carefully. She's talking about media members, fans, and creators who are criticizing her decisions. Her argument is that these people are creating division, but that avoids the real issue. Instead of explaining why she repeatedly defends opponents after controversial plays, she's turning the criticism itself into the problem. That's why many fans see her response as deflection. The WNBA has attracted a massive new audience, especially through the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark, and those fans naturally expect accountability from the people running the team. Telling them they're simply creating drama isn't going to make those concerns disappear.
Of the foul was white privilege. That was your assumption. That's y'all's fault. Once again, another one of these types. Stephanie White, Dejonai Carrington. No wonder Stephanie White loves Dejonai Carrington. It's everybody else's fault. Try exercising your critical thinking skills. I know you studied psych. Furthermore, I'm the last thing from ignorant or asinine when it comes to speaking on, quote, white privilege. Do ya research on that one? I actually went to school, one of the top universities, I might add, to educate myself on this.
Dejonai Carrington's response followed a similar pattern. After the backlash, she defended herself and argued that people were misinterpreting her comments about officiating and racial bias. She emphasized that she never used certain exact words and suggested critics were putting statements in her mouth. But the issue isn't simply about one phrase. It's about the overall message people took from her previous comments and posts. Instead of directly addressing why fans were upset, The response focused on how the criticism was being interpreted. That's why some viewers see a familiar pattern. When controversy grows, the conversation shifts away from the original action and toward blaming the people who raised concerns.
Everybody else's fault. Right here, I posted this just a few minutes ago. Everybody else is the problem. Not me, not me. Everybody else. Zero responsibility as a leader. Once again, blame the fans. That's great for your league that's never turned a profit. It's your fault. It's your fault. Ben Daniel, it's your fault.
This moment is particularly revealing. White talks about being proud of her team for keeping the main thing and ignoring outside criticism. But what we've seen on the court tells a different story. There have been visible moments of frustration, tense body language during timeouts, and questions about whether every player feels fully supported. White may see the team's silence as proof of unity, but players rarely criticize their coach publicly during the season. The real test will come in the off-season, when exit interviews, free agency decisions, and roster moves reveal whether the team truly shares her confidence or was simply staying professional.
Guys, I was an operations manager in the corporate world for years. I'm not sure I'd hired her to clean the bathrooms. I'd be afraid she'd get shitty with somebody. Or get mad and beat the shit out of a client that's in the building. Or one of the agents. Or one of the team managers. Or hell, maybe the site director. You can't trust somebody like that. But I'm smarter than you. In my culturally stolen wig. Yeah, you look like fucking Einstein. I mean, seriously. You look like Einstein. Woo! Agenda, agenda, agenda. She just said a lot of things to say, I've got no justification for me pulling white privilege out and throwing it out on the table, but I'm going to act like I know what I'm talking about. Y'all are too stupid to figure it out.
Now let's look at the business side, because this goes beyond coaching philosophy. The Indiana Fever are a professional organization, and their fan base is a major part of the business. When White repeatedly dismisses criticism surrounding controversial plays, some fans feel she's ignoring their concerns. The Alyssa Thomas incident, the Carrington eye poke, and now the clothesline controversy have created a pattern that has frustrated a growing portion of the audience. That's especially important because the Fever are trying to capitalize on the enormous attention surrounding Caitlin Clark. The franchise needs to build trust with its expanding fan base, not give people another reason to feel disconnected from the organization.
I thought I'd use sign language in case because her third grade Stanford education might not, Look at this dumb redneck right here. All right. Just because I got a little country twang don't mean all the neurons, they're firing. Tell me what you think, folks. It's y'all.
The comparison to Disney is interesting because it highlights what can happen when an organization becomes disconnected from its core audience. When longtime fans criticized creative decisions, many felt their concerns were dismissed rather than addressed. Instead of rebuilding trust, the relationship between the brand and parts of its audience became increasingly adversarial. That comparison applies to the Fever situation as well. White appears to view criticism from fans as outside noise rather than feedback worth engaging with. But when your audience is investing its time, money, and attention into the product, constantly dismissing those concerns can create a serious disconnect. The Fever have an opportunity to build one of the strongest fan bases in the WNBA, especially with Caitlin Clark at the center of the franchise. The last thing the organization needs is for its own leadership to make those fans feel like their opinions don't matter.
Moment. We are firmly there. Disney turned on their fans because their fans called them out about 6 years ago. And now a hell of a lot of Disney products are dead on arrival. Just point that out. The biggest one being the greatest IP ever, Star Wars.
Here's what makes this situation especially frustrating. The solution is actually pretty simple. When an opposing player commits a dangerous foul against one of your players, you support your player. White didn't need to demand a suspension or attack anyone's character. She could have simply said, "That was a dangerous play, and I'm glad the officials addressed it." Player safety has to remain our priority, and we expect the league to take these situations seriously. That's it. A statement like that would have protected her player, reassured the locker room, sent a message to opponents, and given fans confidence that their coach had their back. Instead, White has repeatedly defended opposing players, minimized controversial incidents, and dismissed criticism as outside noise. That's where this becomes a leadership issue rather than just a basketball debate. A strong coach should support her players publicly while handling disagreements and internal problems privately. White appears to have reversed that formula, and it's becoming increasingly difficult for the organization to ignore. Now the Pacers' front office has to look at the bigger picture. They invested heavily in Caitlin Clark, and her arrival has generated unprecedented attention, ticket sales, merchandise revenue, television interest, and media coverage for the Fever. Maximizing the Clark era should be one of the organization's biggest priorities. But if the head coach repeatedly alienates the same fan base that is driving the franchise's growth, the front office has to seriously question whether her approach is aligned with the team's long-term goals. This isn't just about one foul anymore. It's about leadership, accountability, player protection, and the relationship between the organization and its rapidly growing audience. Every press conference gives White another opportunity to build trust, but it also creates another opportunity to damage it. If the same pattern continues, controversy, criticism, and then deflection instead of accountability, the organization will eventually have to decide whether keeping her is worth the cost. There's also a larger culture question. The Fever have talented players, a massive fan base, and one of the biggest stars in women's basketball. That kind of opportunity doesn't come around often. The coaching staff should be creating an environment where players feel protected, supported, and confident in their roles. Instead, repeated controversies are creating distractions that the organization simply doesn't need. At some point, repeated behavior becomes a pattern. White has had several opportunities to show that she can balance competitive intensity with player safety, accountability, and strong communication. The question now is whether the Pacers believe that pattern can change or whether it's time to consider a different direction. Because the Fever already have the talent and star power necessary to become one of the WNBA's biggest franchises. What they need now is leadership capable of bringing those pieces together, protecting its players, maintaining trust with its fans, and turning all that potential into sustained success.